Alright, gonna get started in a second here. Just have to do some last minute postings. You're currently watching and would like to give your favorite Infinity Train moments, not just from book 4, but really all 4 of the seasons. To do so in the live chat. I'll be sure to talk about them when I get started. Alright, so once again, if you're just joining, I'll get started in a second. Just need to do some last minute posting. If you'd like to give your thoughts on book 4 in the chat, feel free to do so. I noticed that right side of me is kind of dark, so just give me a second. I'm noticing the drop frame counter is kind of going a bit nuts in OBS. Hopefully, it doesn't affect the discussion too badly. I just realized that I didn't post the my chat link to Discord, so I'll give it a couple more minutes in case people show up. Yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on today. It usually doesn't have this kind of crazy drop frame thing that used to be a problem when I first did live chats and I had no idea how to work this thing. Yeah, I could turn off this. See if that makes a difference. So I think I'll just go ahead and get started. So hey everybody, Blood Moon Bobby here, and actually my LA Olympic cap. I'm not gonna need that for the stream. But hey everybody, Blood Moon Bobby here. So yes, I am reviewing the final Infinity Train season. I think this is the first time I'm actually reviewing an entire season in one stream. Well, mainly because it is in the past, like all the episodes weren't released at once, and also, um, in this particular case, I really wanted to jump in like right when book 4 came out. I couldn't watch it as soon as it came out since like I have a work life outside of YouTube. But like I just had the guts to watch all 10 episodes rather than doing separate live streams like what I did for book 2 and 3. So yeah, so this is the final season of Infinity Train. What did I personally think of the season overall? I think it was a pretty decent season, and it had some key moments in there, but I'll talk about my thoughts on the individual episodes as we go along. So once again, the reason I really enjoy doing these live streams is because I really like the user interaction. If there are any new Infinity Train fans who have never who haven't seen any of my streams before, first of all, welcome. I really enjoy discussion. I really enjoy getting the chance to discuss the episodes I review with you all, and that's one of the reasons why I like doing these reviews live. And the other reason is frankly because I just don't like the idea of like filming a review with my camera and having to like talk about like 10 episodes and having to like hit the record button again and again and again and that sort of thing. So that's why I like doing them here. So if you do enjoy this discussion or you're watching this from the future, give this stream a like and let me know your favorite scenes, not only from book 4 but just any season of Infinity Train, or even your favorite story arcs, in either the live chat or in the comments if you're watching this after the stream is completed. So without further ado, let's talk about the first episode on this list, which is the Twin Tapes, and kind of a unique beginning for Infinity Train is that most of the episode doesn't actually take place on the train until the very, very end. Instead, much of which is actually focused in the real world. This time, the series itself actually takes place in Canada, which, as somebody who has been to Canada and has been studying its politics and culture for a while now, I thought that was really awesome, and I really liked how I was able to notice the difference toward the terminology, like they mention things like Tukes, and instead of saying like 12th grade they say grade 12. So I thought it was cool that I noticed that. Big shout outs to JJ McCullough. I really like his YouTube channel, and that's where I know all about Canada. But that's not the focus of the episode itself. The main focus is really introducing our lead characters, Mingy and Ryan, and basically their lifelong friendship. Literally, when they were born as babies, like they were like sticking together. They were by the hospital, and much of the episode is like introducing their passion for music and showing why their friendship started to sort of deteriorate. I mean, they're still best friends, yes, but throughout much of the series they're in constant clashes, and it all started with this episode. So I thought it was yeah, and so we see that while Ryan very consistently wanted to be a musician even from when he was a little kid, Min-gi, it's not quite as clear. Like, yeah, he was entertain the idea of performing, and we see that, he liked performing alongside Ryan, or he performed with Ryan when they were still little kids. We see that he starts to have other plans. We see that, he wants to go to a university and study finance, while Ryan would much prefer having him go on tour with him. And they start, like traveling around, and ultimately get to go to perform in New York. In New York, not in New York City specifically, but in the state of New York. So, I thought that was a nice introduction. I really liked how they juxtapose the two different career paths the two characters go on. So we see that Min maintains a job at this Humpty Dumpty themed diner, but the thing is that he's basically stuck in one place, while with Orion, he's traveling around Canada, and like he's performing, but he's not really doing super well. There's constantly people leaving him, and there's like a scene where I think like his girlfriend dumps him, and that's what leads him to come back to the Humpty Dumpty diner in order to seek Min's help. So I thought that juxtaposition was pretty cool. And I also like the little detail. There's one like scene that takes place for only like a few seconds, basically, where there was that one small bit where Min and Ryan's music sort of matched. Like we see there's a second where Ryan is like playing guitar, and it just so happened to match the beats of Min's synth device. So I thought that was a pretty neat note. So I do like seeing the juxtaposition. And the interesting thing is that as I say this looking back, and I notice more of the flaws with both of their career paths, the funny thing was that when I was watching this episode, by the way, hey, I'm gonna be spoiling a lot of things in this live discussion, as I often do. So just keep that in mind. Is that when I was watching this, I thought it was going to be a thing where it's like Min is the one where like I thought it was like the thing where it's like Min-gi has very clearly a much more steady path compared to Ryan. Like we see that that he's the one with a steady job, while Ryan is going around like Canada, but he's not doing super well. So it's kind of interesting, and I might have given some things away by saying like I noticed more of the flaws looking back on like this episode and seeing like having more of an objective view of seeing what's going on with both Ryan and Min. So yeah, and then of course when the two characters get back together, that's when Min tells Ryan that he's going to go off to a university to study finance, and Ryan takes his restaurant keys and goes off to this train, which leads to that scene in the trailer where the train sort of train within a train, and that's how they end up on the Infinity Train. How many times did I say the word train in that one sentence? And which leads to a pretty unique situation in this episode. Even it's not the first time in Infinity Train where we're following two characters who have numbers on them, last season Grace and Simon, but this time the two characters and the characters on the train point out that this is a very unique situation where the two characters start off with the exact same number on their hands. I believe it was something like 202, and that's where things start off. So I thought that this episode was a pretty good introduction, a really engaging introduction into season 4. What might this, I don't know if I consider this a flaw. I think, but I think some fans might be a little disappointed that the character Amelia, who was the villain in the first season, is only in this episode. Like, I remember hearing from somewhere of like, wouldn't it be interesting if well, I mean, this is like a fan theory of wouldn't it be interesting if we get to see what happened to Hazel from book 3, but it's not. It just kind of ended there in book 3. So it's not really a problem I had per se. I'm just, just kind of pointing out a detail from a previous season. But still, Twin Tapes was a pretty good episode. So moving on to the Iceberg Car. Something I gotta say about this season in particular is that I really like quite a few of the cars that they go in, the different challenges and the environments themselves. I thought not many of them were really creative and enjoyable. And we get to see our companion characters. So in book 1, the companions were 1-1 and Atticus. In book 2, it was Alan Dracula. In book 3, it was Hazel and for a time Tuba. And in this season, it is one of those hotel bells, like the dome-shaped bell where you go ding, 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 ding. So this bell is named Kez. And the funny thing was that when I saw the trailer for book 4, the second I heard Kez speak, I recognized who voiced her, and that was Minty Lewis. And I was like, oh, that's Eileen's voice actor from Infinity Train. No. Eileen's voice actor from regular show, Rigby's girlfriend. So I was like, oh my god, it's so cool to see her again. And Kez herself is a pretty likable character, I would say. Definitely may not be may not have the brightest mind, if you will, and there are times where even Ryan and Min don't quite get what she's talking about, but still, she's enjoyably still a enjoyable character and that sort of thing. So pretty cool companion. I do like the challenge that they have to solve where there are these characters, the sort of antagonists of the episode, are pissed off at Kez because Kez caused the car to get really cold, and that's why it's called the Iceberg Car. And so Ryan and Min have to use this thermostat. They think it's a thermostat, but it's really not, in order to figure out how are we going to make these characters really happy again. So I thought that was a pretty creative challenge where they basically have to like turn this dial, and it's like, oh my god, we can't have it turn into lava, but we also can't have it really be cold. And Ryan and Min are like fighting over the thermostat, and then it turns back, and then they manage to get the environment to turn back into a city. I think something else that I liked about this season was I also like how some of the funny moments in the season, whereas in the past seasons of Infinity Train, even though I know Infinity Train isn't primarily a comedy, it's much more focused on like mystery and thrills. I thought some of the funny moments in the season actually gave me a pretty good chuckle. Like I like, for instance, when Ryan and Min get the Iceberg Car to look like a city once again. There's a scene where the characters ask the sort of enemy characters, like, why are you still wearing your parkas? And they're like, we're going to go on a ski trip later. But of course they want to deal with Kez first. So I thought that was a pretty funny line. So I really like the situation itself. I like the characters in this episode. I think Kez is a great addition. And so yeah, I really liked where things went with the Iceberg Car, which leads us into another really great episode, the Old West Car, which is probably one of my favorite episodes of the season. So it's, as the name would imply, it's like a Wild West car. By the way, for those tuning in, I'd like to hear from you. That's why I do these reviews live. Let me know your thoughts on your favorite moments of Infinity Train Book 4, or really any of the seasons, Book 1, 2, or 3. What are your thoughts on Tulip, Lake, Jesse, Simon, Grace, Mingy, Hazel, Ryan, or Kez? I really welcome all of that. I really welcome all Infinity Train fans to check out this review. But getting back to what I was saying about the Old West car. So yeah, so it's in a Wild West setting, except this car it's a Wild West that's populated by these giant bug characters. Like the sheriff of the town is is this like caterpillar character, and so I started to notice like the sort of, I guess you could say, pattern of the season where in some of the cars that they go into, there's characters who have some kind of beef with Kez. So in the Iceberg Car, it was because Kez turned the car into like the Iceberg Car, and in this time, I did warn about spoilers. They're mad because Kez didn't use a coaster and caused a sort of tea stain to be put on one of the. It was a certain kind of law. What was it called again? It was the charter, yeah, and that's why they're mad. So at first, the three characters. So the three characters try to get away. They go into this saloon, and they come across Samantha the cat. If you remember in book 3, they finally revealed the name of the cat character Samantha, and actually this, I know that Samantha can be kind of a shady character. Like she's not exactly the most trustworthy character in Infinity Train, and when the caterpillar promises, there's going to be a bounty if Kez is caught, she just turns Mingy, Ryan, and Kez in, and now they're in jail and trying to get out. And it leads to one of the flaws of Kez. Like basically, it leads to the lesson that she has to learn, where Kez is actually able to escape the jail cell. Although she does give a hint as far as figuring out the puzzle of this train, where she's like, I'll have your backs, and so Mingy and Ryan escape, but they get caught, and they end up going on this trial, this really unfair trial, and the town is like basically saying, you're gonna take responsibility for Kez's coaster crime, and just when Ryan and Mingy are going to get electrocuted by this big bug electrocutor, or I like where they figure out what to do when especially like Ryan in particular is like, hey, maybe we should literally take the advice of when Kez said, look behind your back, and we see that Kez is flying around, and it leads them into a plan where they like trick the town into thinking like, oh my gosh, Kez is there, and the town goes after her supposedly. The caterpillar is now this really creepy ass butterfly, and the butterfly gets electrocuted, not killed, but it's like, injured, if you will. And yeah, and basically the town is fooled into thinking this other bell, this inanimate bell, is like Kez, and they're like, that's a fake, and they're freaking out, and that's what allows Ryan and Mingy to escape. So I thought that the conclusion, it really got to me. For a second I was like, fake what? The charter's fake? Like for a second I was a little confused, but then I was like, oh, the bell that's on the table they were looking back at, isn't moving around like Kez is. So yeah, so it really got me wrapped into it. And then, so yeah, I really like the setting, I really like the puzzle, I like the resolution. I certainly didn't expect, and then it does lay some pretty good hint as far as what's to come later on in the season. So yeah, Old West Car, yeah, I would say is one of my favorite episodes of the season. And then we get to the pig baby car. So think about this car. Basically, it's this giant kitchen with literally this pig baby, and Ryan, Mingy, and not Kez, is in this episode she goes by Lorraine, because once again somebody is really upset with Kez. And yeah, so oh, I lost my train of thought there. So they have to come up with making some sort of treat. And we see more of one of Ryan's main flaws, in that he doesn't tend to think very far ahead. Like he's very impulsive. Like, he and Mingy are going through that this giant cookbook, and they're like, hey, let's try making this treat. And even though it turns out like shit, they still serve it to the pig baby, and of course the pig baby doesn't like any of the treats that they try, and so they settle on making these brownies, and of course they agree, and the brownies turn out good. And it reminded me, and when the two started talking after thinking, yay, we succeeded, and they start talking, and Mingi thinks that it's Ryan who's the one with the problem, because the idea of the Infinity Train, of course, is the characters have to figure out like how to resolve like a problem or a flaw within themselves, and that's what causes the number to go down, unlike what happened to that bastard Simon, and cause the number to go down, and when it goes down to 0, you can leave and Eve. And so looking back, it's kind of funny. In the episode, I was like, wait, like the way Mingi was explaining, oh, Ryan, you're the one with the problem, and you kind of dragged me onto this train. And it's funny looking back how like I for a second thought that Ryan was also the one with the flaw, but then we see the number I think it was Mingi's number starts to go back up from when they both had their numbers go down, and so we're like, and it started to sort of get the wheels in my head turning in terms of figuring out what exactly is Mingi's flaw, because up until this point, I guess for me, I really got taken in by Mingi's perspective of the situation, where it's clear he doesn't like how impulsive Ryan can be, and how he gets Mingi into situations without considering much of what he thinks. Like, I think back to the first episode where Mingi is personally not ready to perform, and we see that Ryan goes ahead on stage with him. So it started to get the wheels on my head turning in terms of, what is the thing that Mingi has to figure out about himself in order to get off this train, which of course just leads into an enticing mystery. And some nice detail I like about this one, I really like how this season plays around with the escape doors. Instead of most of the time where the door is just kind of like, hanging out at the end of the episode. In this episode, the thing about the door is that it's actually in the pig baby's mouth. Like the characters literally have to jump into the mouth in order to escape. So I thought that was a really creative touch. So yeah, the pig baby car I thought was a pretty good episode as well. Again, one of my favorites of the season. Once again, I really like a lot of the creative situations that have come from the season. Like I think for me, I've noticed this more and more with this season, because in the last season, in book 3, because book 3 was so intense, like it mainly made me focus on the story aspect much more rather than like the art style. So not that book 3 didn't have its really nicely animated cars as well. Like I do remember I like the campfire car, or even the one where Simon and Grace first met Tuba and so forth. So, but moving on to the Astro Q car, which looking back, I would say it's kind of it sort of further builds on this idea in that it's not that only one of our two lead characters is really flawed. It's that both of them are not going to have, like, it's not that one of them is solely going to have the solution for how to figure out the problem and that sort of thing. And so in this car, they're trying to figure out how to get into this sort of, I guess you could call it sort of looks like a nightclub, if you wish, just in space. And the person at the door who won't let them in is this astronaut with like this glowing helmet that looks like something that Daft Punk would wear. By the way, really big fan of Daft Punk. But but I like how in this one, it's not that one of the characters has like a sole solution. They both have to figure things out. Ryan tries going in through this vent but that doesn't work. He tries like digging up the ground, but he just finds this really green gooey stuff, and of course that doesn't work. And Min-gi thinks that, oh, you basically just have to wait in this line, but that doesn't work because all those astronauts in the line are actually, they're just like all dead, so that doesn't work. So they basically had to put their heads together in order to figure out how to get into the to this club, if you will. And basically they tell the like astronaut, they put on the astronaut suits and pretend to be like, hey, we're performing for this club, and that's how they get in. So yeah, it was I think it was a pretty, it was a decent episode. I do like how in this case they really had to like put their heads together in order to figure out how to proceed. So yeah, so once again, if you're joining the stream, feel free to let me know your thoughts on book 4 or any of the past Infinity Train seasons in the live chat. One of the reasons why I really enjoy doing these episode reviews live is that it gives me a chance to discuss the episodes with you all. And so we get to the party car, and so basically, yeah, so in this car they get inside, and it looks like Min-gi and Brian are going to perform, but much like what happened in the first episode, Min-gi has cold feet, and it's mainly, and it mainly comes down to how he's concerned that it brings up a lot of like, real world concerns with him, and how he feels trapped in this car. And he even tells Ryan, we're two Asian dudes from BC in a band called Chicken Choice Judy. Is there anybody else doing what we're doing? And Ryan brings up a couple examples. And I like how in this instance, it brings up something that, I like about Ryan himself, and that, in that he mainly like jumps in without thinking too much. Of course, it helps to, think ahead and plan ahead and make all the considerations. But there are times when, and it's something that I personally related to myself, in the sense that of like, overthinking things and thinking despite those difficulties, you just sometimes just have to do it, even if there aren't too many precedents. And nice, and the episode ends on a nice note where instead of the two performing in front of this crowd, like they're all disappointed that there's no like music playing, we just see the two characters like start to play their instruments together, Ryan with his guitar and Min with his synthesizer device, and that's what opens the door. So yeah, so nice lesson. And moving on to this episode, where now the two characters are now like sort of clashing again. They get to this really trippy art gallery car where, for whatever, well, not for whatever reason, the thing about this art gallery is it may look like an art museum, but there's something creeping around with the shadows. And even I wasn't exactly sure. I thought it was going to be like a thing where like a shadow of this like hand and arm was like going to jump out and grab either Ryan or Min, but that's not quite the case. So we see that the two characters still have like their differences against each other, and that Min doesn't like how financially ambiguous Ryan's road has become, and that he's not getting many gigs, and it's not exactly financially promising. But Ryan also doesn't want to be stuck in a position that Min is in, and that, he's basically stuck in the same town and so forth. Yeah. And as I said in the pig baby car, I like how this season like kind of really plays around in terms of the exits, and Ryan figures out in order to exit this car, you have to look at this like sculpture mobile, like this floating sculpture. Can the helicopter pass by? Okay. And and if you look at it in the right way, you can see the door, and that's what leads to the exit. and we see that he tries to help Min, but Min is getting attacked by this like monster that's like, you know, basically a whole bunch of hands putting together that's trying to stop him. And he's trying to call out to Ryan, and I should say Ryan is calling out to Min and trying to say, you know, hey, you have to look at the sculpture in the right way. And and when he says that, I thought that this was a interesting thing. When Ryan says that he won't leave Min, he actually gets an opportunity to leave. We see that the number on his hand goes down, and he gets his exit. And they do the thing where it's like, will he exit or is he going to stay? And for a second, I was wondering, ooh, is this going to be like book 2 again, where one of the characters leaves halfway? Again, spoilers, but of course Ryan stays and his number goes back up. And when Min does escape, he accuses Ryan of leaving him, which only deepens the trust problems that Min has against Ryan. So it kind of reminded me a bit of what happened to Simon in book 3, although not nearly as extreme. And so that scene where Min blames Ryan for leaving him would lead to the next episode. We're getting pretty close to the Mega Maze Car, which something that left me scratching my head a bit is when Min does blame Ryan for leaving him. I feel like Ryan could have at least tried to explain, like to sort of prove that he wasn't trying to leave him, that telling him that he did get his exit, but he chose to stay in order to help Min. Although, to play devil's advocate, maybe it was a case where it's just that Ryan was concerned that maybe he wouldn't believe him, but I don't know. But for the most part, the rest of the episode itself is pretty good. And it's basically, you know, like what, all these characters that really hate Kaz, they all come back to basically get her in this episode. So we get to the castle car, which is the one that Kaz has been taking to all along, has been wanting to take the boys to all along. And but yeah. And then when they get there, we actually see that Min and Ryan are starting to like make up after what happened in the previous car. And we actually start to see some, you know, truths about like how Min really feels about his career path. After the helicopter passes. What was I gonna say? Hey, and we actually hear that Min says that it's mainly his parents who are happy that he gets into a university. And the lighting is doing really questionable things to my face, but I'm just gonna have to continue. And but at the same time, Ryan reveals that like his parents aren't quite as concerned about what he wants to do and all that. So we kind of also see where Ryan's coming from. And then all those characters who had some sort of, sorry about that, problem with Kaz, like the pig baby, the porcelain cow, the 3 characters that turn into really creepy eyeball aliens from the second episode, and even one of those like astronaut characters, the one with the glowing helmets, like they're all coming back and they're going after Kez and our lead characters. But of course they make it to the castle, which leads to next episode, which is not Train to Nowhere. That's the very last one, the castle car, which we find out more about like what Kez has to learn, and also we figure out why Kez was taking them to this taking Min and Ryan to this car all along, and it's actually because there used to be a passenger, even more passengers, but there's in particular one that the castle itself, like, yeah, the castle is named Morgan and really misses this passenger named Jeremy. And what Kez is thinking is, hey, maybe these two boys can replace Jeremy. And of course, they're really pissed off because they really want to go home. And Ryan tells Kez that you can't just leave troubling situation and say, oh, well, like, oh, that's terrible, and not apologize. And, it leads to one of the things that Kez will learn by the end of the series. And so I certainly didn't see that twist coming. Another scene that I really liked in this episode is when we learn more about what happened to Jeremy and basically why he got on the Infinity Train. And it's because Jeremy got in this car crash, and the car crash ended up killing his mom and sister, and he was blaming himself. And so Min gives Kez credit for helping him get through a really troubling time, helping Jeremy, get through this really troubling time in his life, if you will. And even though he's left, it was all for the best. And so, yeah, so I like that scene where Min reassures that Kez did a good thing. But now, of course, we got to get back to the two lead characters and figure out, how are they going to get off the train in the next episode, which is the Train to Nowhere, which is also the name of the song that plays at the very end of the episode, which I thought was kind of cool. Sorry about the questionable lighting. I mainly use, whenever I do streams at this time of day, I don't expect the sun to shine like this brightly, if you will. Actually see here and check on something. Whoops, sorry about that. And this is basically the episode where we see all the characters patch things up and apologize. Kez apologizes to all of the characters that are going after her, and even the characters themselves apologize for their own issues. Ryan apologizes for pushing Min into his musical career when he wasn't ready, and Min apologizes for not being really honest with his feelings, which I could still understand where Min is coming from, because I think it's the thing where it's he was really not sure. He was not sure if becoming a musician would be a financially viable career here, and so he wanted to try something that's considered more comfortable with something like finance, and that's why he went down that road. And so their two apologies is what gives them their exit, and we see that they get two separate exits, if you will, and that's where things leave off. And we get to see the very final scene of the series is the characters playing in a band, and they're actually having managed to attract a bit of a crowd when they start playing in Utica, New York. And so so that is Infinity Train Book 4, and that is the very final season of Infinity Train. And so ultimately, despite what happened when I checked out Book 3, I still enjoyed Infinity Train. I still thought it told really good stories, and it had some really good twists, and I liked a lot of the journeys the characters themselves went on. It certainly had its really intense moments as well, arguably maybe even some of why the show got moved from Cartoon Network to HBO Max. I don't know the specifics myself, so don't quote me, but in the end, still, I really liked where the series got to go. I would say Book 4, it is a decent season. It's not I personally prefer seasons 2 and 3. I know some people think that 2 is kind of strange, but I like the journey that Lake goes on into And Grace is still honestly still one of my favorite Infinity Train characters because I really like how she goes from this really rebellious, destructive character to one who's a lot more honest with herself and who becomes a much more like sympathetic character. And so where she learns to confront more of her problems. And so yeah, but still, book 4 I thought was a decent season overall. Um, so if anybody else is still in the chat, you could let me know in the comments how you felt about Infinity Train as a whole. I remember when the pilot was first released by Cartoon Network, there was a lot of excitement for it. Let me know if you think that the series overall has lived up to that in the live chat, or if you're watching this after this chat has ended, you could let me know in the comments. So, in case more people start showing up, I can uh I'll keep the stream going until 6:30 in case more people show up. But, yeah. Right, couple more minutes. Anybody just joining? I just finished reviewing Infinity Train Book 4. You can let me know your thoughts on the entire series in the chat, or if you're watching this in the future in the comment section. All right, so the hour is up. So yeah, so I'm gonna end things off here. Thank you for tuning in. It's been fun checking out the entire Infinity Train series. I do recommend it if you haven't seen it before. Um, just hope that you won't have to worry too much about spoilers, because Infinity Train is a pretty twisty show. So if you're watching this in the future, let me know your thoughts on the entire series down below in the comment section. If you enjoy the stream, please give this stream a like and subscribe to the Blood Moon Bobby YouTube channel. Until next time, this has been Blood Moon Bobby, and I'll see you all later.